I mentioned in a recent vlog video that I was looking for a new air compressor, and in this video I'll be choosing one. I'm going to start by talking about my criteria for the new compressor. 1. It needs to be relatively small in size. I'll probably be looking at one with a 24 litre or 50 litre tank to fit in the space I have available in the workshop. 2. I'd like something more reliable and better quality than the one that I have currently. I'll talk more about some of the problems with my current compressor shortly. 3. It needs to have a quiet motor, or one of the silent compressors as they call them. I don't know why they call them silent, as obviously they're not silent, but they certainly are quiet. I've had a normal compressor before and I hated how loud it was, especially when I accidentally left it turned on one day and it fired up in the middle of the night. 4. It needs to deliver enough airflow to work well for spraying. And by the way, that's the main thing I'm going to be using it for. Spraying water-based finishes and paints and blowing air off things. That's about it, as I have battery-powered tools to do things like nailing and stapling. And 5, the budget I have in mind is around £250. I can spend a bit more than that if I have to get a decent quality compressor, but I'd rather not spend too much more than that. So onto my current compressor, and here it is covered in dust. This is the Orazio 24 litre, and I believe it's the cheapest silent 24 litre compressor out there. I won't go into loads of detail as I've already done a full review about this, but I've had numerous issues with it. The build quality is not great. I had to replace a lot of the fittings as they leaked air. I replaced the switch too, as that didn't work properly. The air pressure gauge on it stopped working a long time ago, and there's no regulator fitted, so there's no way to regulate the amount of airflow or pressure. Although having said that, since I bought mine about 3 years ago, they seem to have added one, so that's good. Although whether they've made more improvements to it or not, I don't know. This is still working fine though at the moment, and that begs the question, why am I actually upgrading it? Well, firstly, it doesn't deliver much airflow, so while it's fine for blowing air and firing nails and staples, it isn't ideal for spraying. And secondly, because of the issues I've had with it in the past, I don't really trust it anymore. Maybe it'll last another 10 years, maybe it'll last another week. There's no way of knowing, and I've reached a point now where I want to be using tools that I can rely on. Next, a little information about spraying, airflow and pressure. I intend to get an LVLP spray gun as opposed to HVLP, and that's because they can operate with a much lower airflow. Most of the guns I've looked at operate at somewhere between 4 and 6 CFM using imperial units, or between 113 and 170 litres per minute if using metric units. So I know that that's kind of the minimum airflow rating that I need to look out for. Operating pressure for compressors is another important spec, and that's measured in bar, which is metric, or PSI, which is imperial, and airflow will be altered according to what pressure setting you set the compressor to. So for example, if I set my compressor to 8 bar of pressure, the airflow is supposedly 4.77 CFM according to the specification on the website. I'm not sure whether I believe that though, and I have no way of testing it since my pressure gauge doesn't work. Now, I'm not going to pretend I understand all the technical stuff behind that, and I'm not sure I want to understand it either, to be honest, but basically for my situation, I understand that the higher airflow that the compressor delivers, i.e. the higher CFM or litres per minute, the better. I'll probably explain more about spraying in a future video, as I've been learning more about it recently thanks to my uncle who loaned me some of his LVLP spray guns, and I want to put a video together all about it. You might know what's coming next if you've seen a previous video I did about choosing a table saw. Yes, that's right, it's spreadsheet and colouring in time. I did lots of web browsing and I put together a list of all of the silent 24 litre and 50 litre compressors that I could find, and I started putting in the specs of each machine. I didn't list all of the specs, just the ones I care about, which are the tank size, airflow, and I've put that in both litres per minute and CFM, and maximum pressure in both bar and PSI. I also added a column for the best price that I could find at the time online, and a column for notes. I didn't bother listing things like the decibel ratings, seeing as all of these compressors are going to be about 60 decibels or so, which as far as I'm concerned is quite enough. I've also just added a column called Popular Opinion, which basically reflects either what feedback I've heard via you guys or via online reviews. And just to explain some of these, both ABAC and Bambi seem to have a good reputation. I've heard mixed things about Hyundai, some saying that they work great, others having issue with theirs. I've put bad for the Orazio 24 litre because I've experienced that for myself. I've heard mostly good things about the Scheppach models, and I've put mixed for the Swan compressors mainly because they seem to get quite favourable reviews on the Axminster website, but I've also heard some bad things in terms of reliability, and I've seen Andy at Gosforth Handyman's review of his 30 litre compressor which had many problems. I'll link to that video in the description box below. A few things to mention here. Firstly, the airflow ratings should be probably taken with a pinch of salt, as I've read that some manufacturers aren't always honest about these ratings. And also, the airflow probably hasn't been measured in exactly the same way across the board, but I would hope that they should at least give a rough indication of performance. When you compare the Orazio and Hyundai 24 litre models, they appear to be very similar, which makes me suspect that they may share some of the same or most of the same components. And as they're available at a similar price point, it makes me wonder if the Hyundai is just basically the same compressor but with presumably better product support and a 2-year warranty. I don't know for sure. The 50 litre models, however, don't appear so similar. They clearly each have different motors. The SIP compressors on this list are new and not yet available to buy, and I had to make some inquiries with SIP to find out what price point they would be available at. So these are just the recommended retail prices. The actual prices may vary once they are available. Next, I can start color coding the sheet, and this just helps me to see visually where the good and bad assets are. Green being good, amber being okay, and red being not good. And this enabled me to immediately disregard many of these, either for not delivering high enough airflow or for being more money than I wanted to spend. And that left me with 8 different compressors, one of which is the 50 litre Orazio, and as I've already experienced the poor build quality of an Orazio compressor, I'm going to knock that one off the list too. And while I'm at it, as I have suspicions that the Hyundai compressors are basically the same as the Orazio ones, I'm going to get rid of those too. Now, I might be being a little bit unfair on the Hyundai by grouping them in with the Orazio. Chances are the build quality or the quality control might be better with the Hyundai, but I can't be sure of that, so I have no way of knowing. The 50 litre Hyundai actually has the highest airflow by quite a long way, so it may well be a good option. I'm not sure how they are able to achieve that high in airflow from such a small compressor, especially when you compare it to the 50 litre Orazio, which appears to be similar and also has dual motors, but my gut feel was that there might be some better options left on this list, so sorry Hyundai. As I mentioned earlier, the SIP compressors on this list aren't available to buy yet, which means there aren't any reviews out there, so I have no way of knowing if they're any good or not. And also the airflow of these isn't as high as the ABAC compressors on this list, so I'm going to get rid of those too. And the ABAC Montecarlo OS20P with its 50 litre tank and 8.1 CFM airflow looks the best option out of these 3, even though it's a little bit more expensive. And having looked around online and read a few reviews, these machines seem to be pretty well regarded. And with a price of £229, I'm pretty happy with that, so that's what I'm going to go for. Right, bit of an update. So I've just come in after shooting the video that you've just watched, and I've added the ABAC compressor to my basket, and when I've gone through to make payment there is an additional £45.80, which is presumably tax, added to the cost. So the total cost of that compressor with VAT is actually £274.80 here in the UK. And that actually causes a bit of a conundrum because it puts it in the same ballpark price as the Hyundai 50 litre with its 11 CFM. I think my gut is telling me to go with the ABAC, but my brain is telling me to go with the Hyundai. So now, to be honest, I really don't know what to do. Perhaps you can help. If you have experiences with either of these compressors, please leave a comment down below, and that might help guide my decision. I'll hand back to Keith now in the workshop to end this video. My new compressor hasn't arrived yet, so I can't tell you what my first impressions are, but if you want to find out, make sure you're subscribed to my channel for more weekly woodworking videos, and I'll make sure to feature it in a future video and give you my thoughts on it. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can do that via PayPal, or if you'd like to get early access to my videos, free project plans and cut lists, exclusive content and a name credit at the end of my videos, check out my Patreon page, or you can join as a YouTube channel member at the links in the description box down below. Thank you for watching.